Hey, Tiny T Proper here again, and what I'm working on today are some windows and some plastering. We replaced some windows with some high energy efficient windows, and you can see they were different size from the ones that were in here. The ones that were in here were kind of a single pane. They had arches over the top of the windows. Looked real nice, but during hurricane weather down here in South Texas, where this house is at, not real practical to try and cover with plywood. So we decided we wanted some more energy efficient ones, and when we switched them out, we decided to go with square ones. It makes it a little easier to cut a piece of plywood that fits those, and then we can cover those up quickly during a hurricane. But as you can see, with that, I got some problems here. Not problems, but I had a little bit narrower, so I have the sheetrock in here that I filled in with. I need to plaster. Now, I've already started on some of this. I was going to show you what I'm using. I'm using Home Depot. It's called metal corner tape, and this looks like the paper that you use for when you tape in, but it's got a couple metal strips there, and these are good for doing corners inside and outside. So these I've cut here for the long sides of the windows, and I've already done the bottom one across there. And the way this works is you put a bed of plaster down, and plaster just from a bucket of plaster. I bought it pre-mixed. You can buy it dry and mix it, but that's a little bit more work. I like to buy it pre-mixed and thin it down to what I want to use. So anyway, you can use it straight from the bucket, but it's pretty hard to pull in that way, and I do that sometimes when I'm filling in cracks and stuff. I need a little bit thicker, but I usually have another bucket that I take out and thin up what I need, especially if I'm going to spray some texture on, then I need to thin it up quite a bit. But you can see down here, I put some plaster underneath, and I laid that metal tape, the tape with the metal on it, over here on the corner, and then I press that down with a trowel. And the trowel I'm using is this 4-inch or 6-inch trowel, I guess it is, 6-inch trowel, and I just press that in and smooth it down. It ain't perfect yet, but when you're plastering, you'll be putting 2-3 coats on there and working it out to get everything even and nice and look nice. So that's what I'm working on here so far. Some tools you'll need good trowel, 6-inch. I got some wider ones. For that, I got a narrower one if I'm doing some real small stuff, but generally I don't go too much smaller than a 6-inch, but I got some 8 and 12-inch ones too for as I spread that out to get it more even. And probably won't put 3 or 4 coats on this because this will have a heavy texture on it, that orange peel effect, so that'll cover a lot of stuff on it. So mainly I'll get that smoothed out and level and sand it down and spray good texture on it. I'd recommend getting one of these pans for plaster. I don't know what they call them for sure, but they're there with the plaster stuff that works real good to spread out the plaster. Now, some other tape I'm using for out here on the sides. This ain't corners inside or out. It's a flat piece. And what I use on that is this, I call it fiberglass tape. I ain't sure if that's what they call it, but it looks like this. I like it a little bit better because it tends not, for me I think, tends not to crack as much, and it's got a self-adhesive on there, so I can go around and tape up those joints with it and then put the plaster on afterwards. If you use the paper like on this corner stuff, you got to put the plaster down first and then put some more plaster over top of it. So this here I tend to like a little bit better because I put it down, and to me, if it's fiberglass like that, it seems like it's going to be maybe just a little bit stronger once you get the plaster in there. So I'm hoping. I've used it all over my house and seems to work real well. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get these sides put on here. The other side, got one side left. You can see it right there. I'm going to bed it down with some plaster, and the way I do that is I just take plaster on the trowel and I just come down and go along this edge just like this. Get a nice bed, and it's a little bit rough here, so I'm putting quite a little bit on here, and I'll have quite a bit of texturing. When I put this on here, I probably should have done just a little bit better job with these, but get in a hurry, that's what happens. But nice thing about plaster is if you spend a little bit of time at it, you can make it look good. You can keep adding plaster, tape, and the fiberglass for the joints. The main reason for that joints does is fiberglass, the plaster shrinks, and so what I do on these deep holes like this is I'll come back and I'll put some plaster in those cracks before I ever put the tape on there, and that way it'll shrink a little bit, but hopefully the second coat then when I put on with the tape, it won't shrink as much. And so that's why you put it on in layers. You put it all and just try to do it all at once, it's going to shrink up and not look as good. So anyway, if you got big cracks like that, go ahead and fill those with plaster before you tape them. Then that way when you come back, you can put the layer of tape and another layer of plaster over it when it shrinks. All right. I'll come back and show you some of the finished product when I get a little bit farther along here, and maybe how to cover some of those nail holes and stuff also. So anyway, this is plastering, probably not even 101. This is, I'm really a beginner at this stuff, so probably a lot more videos out there. That's just the way I do it, and probably a lot more people, a lot more experience that work on this. And if you look on YouTube and search around, I'm sure you'll find lots of others that have probably done a little bit better job, maybe a little bit more proficient at it. But I've done quite a little bit, but just, I don't do it professionally. I just do it for myself. So anyway, Tiny T signing out. Y'all have a good day.